Okay, so welcome. Thank you all for coming tonight. We're getting close to the end of the Bardo Thodol reading, but we're about to choose a womb entrance. We might be able to finish this tonight. It might take two sessions. Um, we'll see. And then after this, if y'all think it would be useful to have some kind of a discussion session, we could devote one of our sessions just to discussion. We could do that. But after that, or following this, then we would go into the main practice, which is the daily practice that starts on page 17 here in the Bardo Thodol book and goes through page, I think, 67. And so it gives further clarification on the different deities that we meet during the Bardo Thodol, and a little bit more clarity with that. So and it would be part of the daily practice. So if we're not reading for someone, but we're studying for ourselves, the daily practice is what we would be doing. The daily main practice is what we would be doing. So we'll begin that sometime in November. So I hope everybody stays tuned for that. So Debbie, will you start the opening prayers, please?
I'm happy to. We'll do the opening prayers and then we'll sit for a few minutes. All Mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All Mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All Mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. So let's sit for a few minutes. And in your own way, relax, release, and bring your mind home. Rest in stable, spacious, focused awareness. And then gradually turn your mind within and rest in the nature of mind without any manipulation of the thoughts that arise.
All right, thank you all. Thank you, Debbie. So following up on last week, we were talking about nirvana and parinirvana. The question came up, what does parinirvana mean? So I looked it up to be sure. And the general English definition of parinirvana is total extinction. So the nirvana is the extinction part, and the pari part is the total. So very often it's referred to as the nirvana that a monastic would experience when they pass on. But that's kind of general. It's not specific that all would be. Sometimes it is regarded to those who are considered to be of the highest realization that they pass into parinirvana. So it may be, the highest Rinpoches and so on. So it said, of course,
it would be where we dissolve into space. We become space.
That's right.
Return to.
Yes. So there is no limits, no boundaries to where we are extinct. We could say that we're extinct now, and we go through times when we are stable in that extinction, for we can attain nirvana now in this life. We can transcend our samsaric experience and experience samsara, but it's not stable. But in parinirvana, it would be there's no return. So another thing that I would like to talk about, and we'll have a chance to practice this in just a couple of moments, but the point about mantra and the point about the recitation, the point about chanting, when we hear, throughout the Bardo Thodol, it's we recite Om Mani Padme Hum Shri many, many, many times in many different places. And, this is called the liberation mantra. When we recite it with this particular melody, when we recite it with the 6 syllables of Om Mani Padme Hum included with the syllable Shri at the end. And we're visualizing the Shri as the seed syllable at the heart center, and the 6 syllables are radiating their light, going around in a clockwise direction to all beings and all the bardos and all the six realms of being a human being, so on, that we have been studying. And so the light from each of these syllables is representative, is symbolic of a Buddha, one of the 6 sages that we talked about last week. We reviewed that last week, and that light is going to all these beings to guide them to their liberation. So one of the things about the mantra, an analogy I think that is very helpful. It's like a radio. Today, it's not so much of a problem, but people my age, from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and so on, when we had our car radios, our AM radios, or maybe it was our home radios or something, and we would tune to the AM stations, the radio stations, they would tend to drift. And every now and then you'd have to go and you'd have to fine tune, the channel that you were onto, 1090 or 1200 or 600, whatever it was, you'd have to fine tune it. And so the mantras, we should think of the mantras like that what we are tuning into is this vibration, for lack of a better word, that there is this vibration that we are all part of, this continuum that we are all part of. And so there's a tendency for us to drift. And so by reciting the mantra over and over and over again, and I'm not talking about 20 times or 30 times or 50 times, I'm talking about several mallow rounds. Everyone should have a set of beads. And everybody, there's 108 beads. And we should think of these recitations in terms of mala rounds, how many mala rounds we would do, whether it would be 3 or it would be 5 or 7 or maybe 10 or 11. So the more that we do this, the more that we are fine tuning into that one-pointed mindfulness, this space of spaciousness, of being in space, of being in that nirvana. And the more that we tune into it, the more stable it becomes, and the more that we continue with it as we get up off the cushion. So it's strong for us. It's strong for the people that we are reading for, those who are in the Bardo, those migrators who are in the Bardo. And whether we know them or not, there are so many beings. So when we're reciting this, we should be visualizing, or at least imagining, all the many, many, many countless beings that are in the Bardo at any given time. And that all this light, all this recitation, all this vibrating is all coming together, is coalescing together. So it becomes part of a very powerful beacon that is going to all beings. So when we recite that, please, if you use this analogy, may be helpful to motivate. If someone else has a particular analogy that they use, be interesting to hear what you have to say about that. But so I hope this is helpful. We're going to recite this very shortly. Yes, Adrian.
Yeah, I want to say something. A little comment. So you're the second person today that I'm talking with and making the same analogy. And the way that I see it is that actually things are happening exactly, how you described it. Like everything on this earth, including, trees, any being, plants, animals, rocks, everything, they have their own frequency, and they're vibrating to a certain level. And with this mantras and our thoughts and prayers, we tune in to the whole world. There's no doubt that that's what it is, at least in my heart.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, so to get ourselves started tonight, I'd like to start on page 171, where we do this daily recitation here in part 3 during the portion where we are choosing a womb entrance. We're trying to close the womb entrance. We're trying to, if that fails, then we have to choose a womb entrance, how it is that we are to be reborn. That's how we're going to begin tonight. So this recitation on page 171 goes on for 3 pages here. And at the end is the liberation mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. So I would like, if you can, please, I'm trying to give everybody a good opportunity to recite these sections. So Jane and Jerry, you haven't recited for a little bit. Could you both together recite and with your microphones on, and everybody can mute their microphones and follow along with you, either out loud recitation or quietly listening and contemplating the meaning of what is being said. So Jane and Jerry, when you're ready, please go ahead.
Well, we say it 3 times, so you say it once. Recite each day, O child of Buddha nature, Ricky Boo Jane. In short, since your awareness during this intermediate state lacks any material support, it is light and volatile, and therefore, whatever virtuous or non-virtuous perceptions arise, these are very powerful. Do not be absorbed by non-virtuous thoughts. Call to mind the virtuous practices of your past. Even if you did not engage in virtuous practices during your life, maintain purity of perception and deep devotion. Pray to your meditation deity or to Maharunika, and with a powerful longing repeat the following aspirational prayer. Peace right there.
Now, when I roam alone, separated from my loved ones, and myriad images of emptiness arise, naturally and manifesting, may the Buddhas quickly release the power of their compassion, and may the fear of the awesome and terrifying intermediate state be annulled. When I experience suffering as the result of negative past actions, may the meditational deity, Maharunika, dispel all such misery, and as the natural sound of reality reverberates like 1,000 peals of thunder, may all sounds be transformed into the resonance of the 6 syllables Am Mani Padme Hum. When I am driven on by past actions, unable to find a refuge, may the great compassionate one, Mahakaranika, protect me, and as I experience the suffering of habitual tendencies and past actions, may the meditative stabilities of inner radiance and bliss naturally arise. Repeat 3 times.
Yes, so please repeat.
Okay.
Beginning on page 172.
Now when I roam alone, separated from my loved ones, and myriad images of emptiness arise, naturally manifesting, may the Buddhas quickly release the power of their compassion, and may the fear of the awesome and terrifying intermediate state be annulled. When I experience suffering as the result of negative past actions, may the meditational deity, Maharunika, dispel all such misery, and as the natural sound of reality reverberates like 1,000 peals of thunder, may all sounds be transformed into the resonance of the 6 syllables Om Mani Padme Hum. When I am driven on by past actions, unable to find a refuge, may the great compassionate one, Maharunika, protect me, and as I experience the suffering of habitual tendencies and past actions, may the meditative stabilities of inner radiance and bliss naturally arise. Maybe read there.
Now when I roam alone, separated from my loved ones, and myriad images of emptiness arise, naturally manifesting, may the Buddhas quickly release the power of their compassion, and may the fear of the awesome and terrifying intermediate state be annulled. When I experience suffering as a result of negative past actions, may the meditational deity, Mahakaranika, dispel all such misery, and as the natural sound of reality reverberates like 1,000 peals of thunder, may all sounds be transformed into the resonance of the 6 syllables, Am Mani Padme Hum. When I am driven on by past actions, unable to find a refuge, may the great compassionate one, Mahakaranika, protect me, and as I experience the suffering of habitual tendencies and past actions, may the meditative stabilities of inner radiance and bliss naturally arise.
Say this aspirational prayer with ardent longing. It will certainly lead you on to the path. Be absolutely certain that this aspirational prayer will not deceive you. This is most important.
Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Shri 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Okay, thank you. Does anybody know why in certain parts here where we have these prayers that are in the Bardo Thodol and many other practices that we do, that it says to recite these prayers 3 times? Do you think it's an accident that we do that? Or is there a reason why we do that? And if so, what is that reason? Tom, did you turn your microphone on?
Yes. For the outer meaning, the inner meaning, and the secret meaning. That's why we recite it 3 times.
Correct. So the outer meaning is what the words, just what they say. The inner meaning is what we learn, what the guru has taught us, what the text has taught us, the scriptures have taught us, the inner meaning, what the symbology of the phrases and the words and so on. And the secret meaning is the meaning that we begin to recognize within ourselves by doing this over and over again, but particularly here with the outer meaning, the inner meaning, and then because we've repeated this many times, many other times in different practices and so on, that we've developed this awareness, we've developed this secret meaning of how it is that it's affected in our lives. So it's important to cultivate that, to cultivate the secret meaning, to cultivate our relationship with these prayers. So thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything that we've talked about before we begin the next part here?
I was watching this afternoon from my front porch, and a tiny bird, maybe 2 or 3 inches tall, landed on, I don't know how you call a leaf on a cactus. That part in itself amazed me. And I looked at the bird and I repeated, Om Mani Padme Hum, several times. And the bird did not fly away. Eventually it flew away, but usually they're very fidgety. And so it kind of struck me that hearing those sounds, that something, this is a projection from my mind, something resonated in that bird, hearing them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know many people, when you're driving along the highway, and particularly this time of the year or in the springtime, we see lots of carrion in the road, deer and dogs, cats, and so on like that. And, they have just passed away. And as we pass by them, reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, to whispering to them, saying to them, and it makes a connection with us. It may be a projection, just like Thomas just said, but nevertheless, it's a healthy projection. So maybe you might think about that yourself. And I beg pardon?
I usually say to those little animals, I say a little prayer and just say, may you obtain a virtuous rebirth.
Yeah.
But I like that.
And years ago, when my grandson was born, and I went to visit, several different times, and so when they live in California, and they would have, he wouldn't go down, to go to sleep, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to put him in the car. I'm going to take him a ride around the block until he falls asleep, and bring him back in the house and put him in his crib." That must be the new age way of doing these things. But anyway, I said, well, let me try. So I would go into his room, and I would just take him and put him on my chest. I'd lay on the floor, my back on the floor, and put him on my chest. And I would recite Om Mani Padme Hum. And you could just feel him just relaxing every muscle. And he would go to sleep in no time at all. So it has many, many practical uses. Okay, so we're going to begin on page 191 tonight. This is part 3, choosing a womb entrance. So now we've gone through the earlier parts of trying to close the womb entrance, trying to obstruct the womb entrance and so on, and that has failed. So now we are bound to be reborn again, to be so it's up to us to choose. So it's like this mental body, this energy, whatever, is about to meet up with the egg and the sperm of the parents. So I'll begin reciting here, page 191. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchuk Pema Dorje, listen carefully. Even though many authentic introductions to the instructions have previously been given to you, at this stage, you have not taken these to heart. Now, if you have been unable to obstruct the womb entrances, the time has actually come for you to assume a body. There are not just one, but several different kinds of profound and genuine instructions which relate to your choice of an appropriate room entrance. So comprehend these well. Do not be distracted. Listen without distraction. Understand and maintain a firm intention. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchuk Pema Dorje. Now, if you are to be born as a human, the indications and signs which relate to the environment into which you may be born on one amongst the 4 continents will arise. You must recognize these indications. Indeed, you must choose the continent based on a careful examination of these indications of the environment into which you may be born. If you are to take birth on the eastern continent, Vidya, you will see a lake adorned by male and female swans. Do not be drawn to this place. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. For were you to go there, even though it is a happy and tranquil place, it is an environment where the sacred teachings do not flourish. So do not enter this continent. If you are to take birth on the southern continent, Zambupipa, you will see grand and delightful mansions. If indeed you can enter here, do so. If you take birth on the western continent, Aparagadanyana, you will see a lake adorned around its shores by male and female horses. Do not be drawn towards this place. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. For even though it is a place of great wealth and abundant resources, it is an environment where the sacred teachings do not flourish. So do not enter this continent. If you are to take birth on the northern continent, Uttarakuru, you will see a lake adorned around its shores by cattle, or a lake adorned by trees. Recognize these appearances as indications of the birth that you are about to assume. Do not enter there, for even though this is a place where there is longevity and which has merit, it is an environment where the sacred teachings do not flourish. So do not enter this continent. So let's go back. So page 191, if you look on the right side of the page, you see there is Mount Meru and the 4 continents. So I think last week I introduced you to this, but I'll review this again. So we have to look at this as a 3-dimensional object. So we see that there is this center column, which is Mount Meru. And on this is where all the, this is where the gods are. This is where high beings, high realization beings are on this Mount Meru. And so there's the realm of 33. There's all kinds of elaborations on what these realms are. And this is based on Hindu tradition. But in many of the other Western traditions and so on, there are similarities here. It's amazing that there are so many similarities in this visualization. But nevertheless, this blue part that you see, this column, is where the gods are. And then above that, in the clouds, are where the enlightened beings, where the Buddhas would be, the Bodhisattvas would be, and so on. So, so that would be very high up, as you can see. Then below that seems to be a disk, are in 4 segments, are these 4 continents. So it starts off in the east, which is the blue section. No, excuse me. In the east is the white section. The white section, and that is got a semicircular design to it. And then after that comes a triangular blue section. And then after that comes a round red section. And then after that is a yellow square section or cube. So we have to look at this as 3 dimensions. So, and then you see the white clouds. There's a white band of clouds there. And then below that would be the, like this earth or this body of water, the samsaric body of water and the clouds and so on. So going back now, so back to 191, the bottom, O child of Buddha nature, if you are to be born as a human, the indications and signs which relate to the environment to which you were born on one amongst the 4 continents will arise. You must recognize these indications. Indeed, you must choose the continent based on a careful examination of these indications of the environment to which you are to be born. So the word Vipa, V-I-P-A, means an island or a continent. So here it's shown as segments of a wheel, but you could also think of it that this is this continent that is suspended, with no, with the borders not touching each other. So it says, if you are to be born on the eastern continent, Videha, this is the white section, and there it's in a semicircular shape. You will see a lake adorned by male and female swans. Do not be drawn to this place. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. For if you were to go there, even though it is a happy and tranquil place, it is an environment where the sacred teachings do not flourish. So do not enter this continent. So high realization beings might be in this place, but these high realization beings also may get marooned there. So this is why we say that there's no teachings there. They may get there on their own, thinking, oh, this looks like a splendid, wonderful place that I want to be. But then they wind up being, as I said, marooned there. They wind up being alone. So it's not a good place to be. There's no teachings. There's no place to grow. There's no way to grow from there. The next place, it says, if you are to take birth on the southern continent, we're moving around in a clockwise direction. On the southern continent, that's Zamvupipa. You will see grand and delightful mansions. If you can enter here, do so. This is our continent. We are on the continent of Zamvupipa. This is where the human experience takes place. Zamvupipa. So it is triangular shaped. It is more, so it would be more like a tetrahedron. Remember last week I was reminding you to visualize that you're doing mantra and that you're visualizing that you've got this three-dimensional Star of David, if you will. Your two shoulders going down to the bottom of your body, the bottom of your trunk of your body is one of the tetrahedrons. Then the other tetrahedron are your two knees going up to the crown of your head, and it's all interlocked. So this is like two tetrahedron. This is what it is to be in Zamvupipa. So here I meant to make but I did a drawing here, if you can see that. So in the center, you see that here is the Buddha. Here is a meditation being. And in the center, in the heart center, is this double tetrahedron. And in the center of that is this disc. The heart center is the mind, the big mind, like a sphere, a golden sphere. So visualizing that. So the double tetrahedron represents all this phenomenal nature. All this phenomenal nature. If you ask a scientist, what is the strongest structure in geometry, they will tell you that it's a triangle. So we see that all around us are all these triangles, and we see in all the different traditions, all the spiritual traditions, the religious traditions, they all have a triad at their essence. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. In every tradition, they've got some kind of a triad. Very interesting. So this Zamvupipa is the place where all this takes place, where we're able to have our life, have it sustained, and have teachings, because this is where the Buddha, the Dharma teachings are. So another interesting thing, because this comes out of India, this comes out of the Hindu, that this triangular shape is also the shape of India. If you look at a globe or a map, India is a triangular shape. So this was a very holy place. And if you've ever been to India, if you've ever managed to travel there and everything, I think everybody that I've ever met who's been to India always remarks about what a holy place that is, what a spiritual place it is. Okay, so then continuing on now on the page 193, it says, if you are to take birth on the Western continent, Aparagodanaya. I do my best. You will see a lake adorned around its shores by male and female horses. Do not be drawn to this place. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these, for even though it is a place of great wealth and abundant resources, it is an environment where the sacred teachings do not flourish. So do not enter this continent. So this is red, and this is Iron Mountain. It's red because it is Iron Mountain. And it has a iron, so iron is part of the ground there. So it gets its color from that. And this is a land of giants, a land of giants that are 24 feet tall. And they live many, 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 many years. They live 500 years, it's said. So some of this can be, thought of as mythology. At the very least, think of it as symbology. So this is a land of great beings. It's great beauty. All these places are beautiful. But meanwhile, the common thing between them is that there's no teachings except on Zambupipa. That's the only place where the Dharma teachings are. And Zam, the word Zam, D-Z-A-M, which is here and on the text, going back to 192, I just remembered something. The word here, it's spelled J-A-M-B-U-D-V-I-P-A. It's pronounced like D-Z-A-M, Zambupipa. And Zam means purification. So this is a land of purification. And this is the blessing that we have as being a human being, the gift that we give ourselves to have this life in order that we can purify. So in the other places, you can't do that. Okay, so do not enter the continent of Apara Gadania. Now, the next paragraph, it says, so if you were to take birth on the northern continent, Uttarakuru, you will see a lake adorned around its shores by cattle or a lake adorned by trees. Recognize these appearances as indications of the birth that you are about to assume. Do not enter there, for even though this is a place where there is longevity, and which has merit, it is an environment where the sacred teachings do not flourish. So do not enter. So this is a square, and this is yellow, and this is idyllic people. Idyllic beings are here, very idyllic, who cannot comprehend Dharma. So again, these are beings who have accomplished great merit, but they have allowed themselves to be pulled away from their causes of that merit through selfishness, and who now are leading, they have merit enough to lead this idyllic life, but they're just abandoned there. So we say that they can't comprehend the Dharma and they can't progress from that. So that might sound like something that you might want to do. And maybe you know some people that might be caught in that kind of a trap here in this life. Because as I say, fundamentally, this is all symbolic. So you can meet people in each one of these continents. So now going to page 194. If you are to take birth as a god, you will see delightful celestial palaces, many storied and composed of diverse jewels. If indeed you can, you should enter here. So this would be on Mount Sumeru, Mount Meru. This would be on that center column, that Mount Meru. So here are celestial places. Here are beautiful places. This is a great place to be. However, as we've experienced or as we've examined before, that the realm of the gods has issues too. There's pridefulness and there is desperate falling when the gods lose their adoration by their followers. And because the gods do not have compassion, they have great wisdom, but they do not have compassion. And because of that, they have ignored the supplications of many, many beings and caused much or allowed much suffering to occur. when they might have been able to engage and be able to lead people through their suffering. But the gods choose to remain in their luxury, to remain in their serenity of being gods. So so it is a temporary place. However, it does have virtue and it does have wisdom. So now we go to the next part. It says, if you are to take birth as an anti-god or a jealous god, you will see exquisite groves and spinning wood torches, creating wheels of fire. Do not enter there under any circumstances. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. So this would be the lower part of Mount Sumeru. You can see the steps there as it goes up to the big column. So this would be the lower part of Mount Sumeru. These would be the jealous gods. Yes, Curtis. We can't hear you. Your microphone's turned off, but we can't hear you.
That's better, I presume.
Yes.
I'm curious. I know that sometimes the god and the jealous god, the proud god and the jealous gods are, lumped together, and you end up with 5 realms. But my question is slightly separate. Why are these considered higher realms when they don't have the advantages of the human realm, particularly the jealous god, where they're always fighting each other? It doesn't sound like a very nice place.
Well, yes, that's true, and that's right, and they're not lumped together. In some illustrations, they do show, one segment in the illustration of the Wheel of Existence as being, here's the God realm and here's the jealous God realm, and they're fighting each other, and there's no line of demarcation there, but they are clearly 2 distinct realms. So they're not pushed together. Some illustrators took it to bring them together. But because of their conflict and because of their deviousness and their manipulation, they are inferior to human beings, although they may think that they are superior to human beings. They have the fault of arrogance. They have the fault of skillful means. They're very smart. They're very wise, and let's say they're smart in that they can use their ability to be able to communicate, to be able to manipulate beings to support them, to give them adoration, to give them money, to give them whatever kind of support, depending on what kind of a lifestyle they're going through. And we know lots of people like that. We see business people, we see professors, we see politicians, we see medical people, we see lots of people who are caught in this jealous God realm.
I guess the God part is really about power. It's not about righteousness. They're really not, that their character is flawed.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But you see, in the God realm, the Deva realm, let's call it the Deva realm, the God realm. The Deva realms, their flaw is their pride and their lack of compassion. But they're not directly doing something to harm other beings. They don't have a malicious intent. Whereas in the other realms, there is a malicious intent.
The jealous God realm, though, they fight a lot.
Correct. So their intention is to get over on each other and human beings and whatever other realms they can.
Lance,
Okay.
quick question.
Yes.
On the God realm of the 33s, isn't that where Buddha's mother was reborn?
Yes.
And isn't it also possible to gain or to be enlightened there as well?
to
But the
gain,
tenets
to
are-
gain, to gain a level of enlightenment, but it's not the realm of the Buddhas.
Mhm.
It's a God realm. It's not the realm of the Buddhas.
So tremendous merit has to be, you still have to acquire tremendous merit to be born in the God realms.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay, okay.
And
Thanks.
and it can be a trap. You know, else why would the Buddha have gone there to teach the gods that were in the God realm? They wouldn't need teaching if they were fully realized.
Mhm. Thank you.
So it says, so we were on the anti-God realm. So it's got all these mesmerizing things going on, you know, these wood torches, wheels of fire. So the next time you go to a July 4th celebration and you see the fireworks and you see those spinning pinwheels, now you'll have a new meaning for them. So if you were to take birth as an animal, you will see rocky caverns, empty hollows, and straw sheds shrouded by mist. Do not enter there. So you'll see these places out in fields and meadows and hilly country and so on, where animals might like to go to kind of protect themselves from the cold or from the rain or whatever. If you are to take birth as an anguished spirit are the predator realm, the hungry ghosts, you will see tree stumps, black protruding silhouettes, blind, desolate gorges, or total darkness. Were you to go there, you would be born as an anguished spirit and experience the manifold sufferings of insatiable hunger and thirst. Do not enter there. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. Be courageous and strong. So, of course, each one of these things bears meditation, you know, by reading these, contemplating the meaning of these, and engaging in some of the other practices, you know, in the Nundro practice. You may not have heard this term before. I don't think we've talked about this, but we talk about that there is the mind of liberation is Mahamudra or Dzogchen. The great perfection is Dzogchen. Mahamudra is the great seal. So in some traditions, they talk about the Mahamudra. Some traditions, they talk about Dzogchen. But it's the same liberation mind, the same liberated mind. And to be able to apprehend this mind, one has to purify and one has to educate oneself to bring on knowledge to be able to understand the dynamics of how human beings operate and so on like that. So we go through these Nundro practices, and these Nundro practices are called the uncommon preliminaries. They're uncommon because they're done by high practitioners who are embarking on the path of Mahamudra, of this enlightened mind. So one of those 4 Nundro practices is the practice of the excuse me,
Guru Yoga.
what was that? No, not the Guru Yoga. Funny how the mind goes blank for a second.
Vajrasattva and Guru Yoga.
The mandala offerings.
Mhm.
The mandala offerings. And in the mandala offerings, this visualization of this Mount Sumeru and the continents is part of that visualization. So a great deal of detail is given through that Nundro practice. So I'm just making the point that here we're seeing the application of that awareness, of that knowledge, and there are practices that lead up to that that would behoove us all to partake of, to be able to fully understand the Bardo Thodol.
What occurs to me as you're reading, and we understand from your presentation that this is both for ourselves and to read to a person that just passed away. But it appears to me that the many snares that we could get entangled with are there because of our, the danger manifests from our desire. If we didn't have the desire, then we wouldn't go for those things. So kind of reverse engineering into our present moment, we can see that it's very advantageous to not get entangled in things, to not get ensnared in things, to use discriminating wisdom and to cut through all the bullshit.
Correct. Okay, so moving on. If you are to take birth as a hell being, you will hear the songs of those negative past actions, or quite simply, you will feel powerless and compelled to enter. Whereupon the perception will arise that you are moving into a land of darkness, where there are black and reddened houses, black earth pits, and black roads. Were you to be drawn to this place, you would enter the hells and experience the searing, unbearable sufferings of heat and cold. Be careful. Do not enter into the midst of these, for there will be no opportunity to turn back. Do not enter there under any circumstances. As it is said in the root verses, you must obstruct the womb entrances and call to mind the methods of reversal. These are wholly necessary now. So these visualization of the hell realms speaks of like a war zone. And the visualization, I didn't mention the visualization in the predator realm and one before, the anguish spirit realm, the tree stumps and the black silhouettes and so on like that, of incompletion, of things that have been stripped out, things that have been taken away, and all that's left are remnants of past things. So these visualizations go along with the afflictions that are the manifestation of these realms, of being born into these wombs and so on. So and these wombs, we're being born maybe as a human being who is going into these human bodies, but with these strong karmic seeds for these proclivities to be animalistic, to be like a hungry ghost, to be in a hell realm and so on. So we shouldn't think of them so much as literal places, but more as states of mind. So
Could I ask, Lance, then, since there's states of mind, these two are all on the southern continent?
All this takes place on the southern continent. Human
Okay.
beings take place on the southern continent. This is all about human beings.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So states of mind of humans on the southern continent.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the predator realm, the hunger, the anguish spirit realm is like being in a place of great famine. Where all of the nature of the trees and the plant life and all the food sources and everything have all been stripped away. And there wasn't enough thought about that we have to have intelligent, growth sustenance, so that, you know, the next generation will have food and so on like that. So it's a place of famine. So it's a famine of the spirit. It's a famine of the mind. And the war zone is a war zone of the mind. The hell realms is a war zone of the mind. In the hell realms. So now, page 196. O child of Buddha nature, Ricky Bu, Kunchuk Pema Dorje, although you do not wish to move forward, you are powerless not to do so. The avenging forces, who are the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect, will be pursuing you. You will have no choice but to move forward. Before you, the avengers and executors will be leading the way. The experience will arise of trying to flee from these forces, of trying to flee from the darkness, from the most violent windstorms, from the thunderous tumult, the snow, the rain, the hail, and the turbulent blizzards which swirl around you. So these are your karmic seeds. These are your demons that are within yourself. And we can experience these in our daily meditation. We get familiar with these, you know, and that hopefully by this time of engaging here, that we won't be drawn into the lower realms. We still have work to do in the higher realms, but in the lower realms, the three lower realms, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realms, maybe we've been able to cut them off at this point, but maybe not. And maybe those thoughts, some things still arise, demons still come up, and we have to be prepared for that. So by bringing this into our meditation and using this as a guide for our meditation, and when we get into the main practice, you'll see more about this, using this prepares ourselves. You know, we begin to recognize what our habitual tendencies are. We begin to recognize what our mental misconceptions are. We begin to recognize what our afflictive emotions are, how they still remain with us, despite the fact that we have these great lives, that we still have these demons, we still have these things that are pulling us down. So here are the avengers and the executors. You know, what are these avengers and executors? These are our demons who are taking, you know, who are, you know, characterizing these thoughts. You know, we may use these avengers and demons may have appeared to be people that we know. Maybe they're our brothers or our sisters, or they're people that we worked with, or they're people that we went to war with, or the people that we built a company with, or something like that. But meanwhile, they represent a certain force that is pulling us back, pulling us down. So these are what is referred to as the avengers and the executors of this. But it's all within our own mind. It's all within ourselves. So we're trying to escape from this, but at this point, it seems almost inescapable. It's overwhelming. So here we continue on. It says, frightened, you will set off to seek a refuge, and you will find protection inside an enclosed space, such as within the mansions just described, or in rock shelters, or holes in the ground, or amongst trees, or within the bud of a lotus flower. Hiding there, you will be very hesitant to come out, and you will think, I should not leave here now. You will be very reluctant to be separated from this protected place, and you will become utterly attached to it. Then, because you are very hesitant to go outside, where you would be confronted by the fears and terrors of the intermediate state, you will, because of this fear and all, continue to hide away. Thus, you will assume a body, however utterly bad that may be, and you will in time come to experience all manner of sufferings. This experience of wanting to hide is a sign that you are being obstructed by malignant forces and carnivorous ogres. Particularly related to this stage, there is a profound oral instruction. Therefore, listen and understand. But before we go there, I mean, this sounds like you're on the couch with Freud. You know, with some kind of a, you know, you're going through some kind of a psychological therapy with this. And many of us in our present life right now are going through, you know, visions of this or experiences of this or thoughts of this and so on. You know, so we see that this is very, very much, you know, a part of who we are because we've allowed this to manifest. But here we're able to look at it in the safety of our meditation space and be able to work with it with the support of the Dharma, with these scriptures, with these practices, with our Dharma brothers and sisters, with our gurus and so on, to be able to work on these things. And by doing that, then we gain the stability so that we can help those beings who are in the Bardo. You know, that's why, you know, we as beginners in this Bardo Thodol, you know, we wouldn't be called upon, we wouldn't be expected to be reciting this for someone who has just passed, because we ourselves are reading this and we're kind of flipping out. So we need to carry on. So therefore, listen and understand. At this time, when you are being pursued by avenging forces and you feel powerless to escape, and you are terrified and frightened, you must in an instant and with perfect recall visualize the transcendent Lord, Mahatara Haruka, or Hayagriva, or Vajrapani, or else if you have one, your personal meditational deity. Visualize the deity as having a huge Buddha body with thick limbs, standing upright in a terrifying, wrathful manifestation, which pulverizes every form of obstructing force. By virtue of this practice, insulated from the avengers by the blessing and compassion of the meditational deity, you will secure the ability to choose a womb entrance. This is a profound and genuine crucial point of the oral instruction. So understand this now. So now we have to kind of go back and refresh our memories on what it was in the wrathful in part 2, when we were encountering the fierce wrathful deities, and see that their powerful compassion is what we need at this time. Their powerful compassion to be able to overcome this overwhelming forces that are pulling us back, that are pulling us into, you know, into an unhealthy or an unwholesome lifestyle. So Lord Mahatara Haruka, that's the main Haruka, that's the main of the wrathful deities. And then Hayagriva is one of the gatekeepers. And then Vajrapani is one of the great bodhisattvas, where your personal deity visualizes having a huge Buddha body and so on. So we have to go back. We have to remember our practice. So now back to page 198 in the middle, it says, moreover, O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchok Pema Dorje, the gods inhabiting the form realms of meditative concentration and similar beings of the higher realms take birth through the potency of their meditative stability. Let me read that again, because that answers a couple of good questions. Moreover, O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchok Pema Dorje, the gods inhabiting the form realms. So those are the 6 realms, the human realms of meditative concentration and similar beings of the higher realms take birth through the potency of their meditative stability. So if they have merit because of their meditative stability, then they would have a good rebirth, is what's being alluded to here. It then says also, certain classes of malevolent forces, including the anguished spirits, arise on the basis of the transformation of their mental body itself during this very intermediate state through a shift in their mode of perception. In this way, they assume the forms of anguished spirits, malign force, or carnivorous ogre, capable of displaying diverse miraculous acts. So here we're talking about those who may now have good meditative stability. They have good merit, but they're also still have this habitual tendencies to pull themselves downward. So we have to be ever aware. We're never kind of like out of the woods. We're always subject to being pulled down until we reach perfection. And so we say sometimes that being on the path is the perfection of being on the path is the awareness of the imperfection. And that's what keeps us moving forward, not letting us get complacent, not letting us get arrogant, because we can get tripped up very easily. So it says, during this very intermediate state through a shift in their mode of perception. In this way, they assume the forms of an anguished spirit, malign force, or carnivorous ogre, capable of displaying diverse miraculous acts. So then we go to the next page, 199. The anguished spirits who reside in the ocean depths, the anguished spirits who move through space, the 80,000 classes of obstructing forces and so forth all come into existence consequent on such a shift in their mode of perception while still in the mental body. So remember, when we started this journey and we dropped our body, we became this spiritual body. But if we didn't allow ourselves to be spiritual and we moved away, we moved down from that, then we become a mental body. So this mental body is what now is going through all these opportunities to be pulled further down or to liberate. There's always been a way to liberate up to this point. So now at this time, therefore, while visualizing the wrathful deity or the fierce deity of Mahatara Haruka, or whichever you prefer. And we talked about the Harukas, we talked about the females, we talked about the Matara, we talked about the Pisachi, we talked about the Ishvara, all these wrathful deities that were there with great compassion to help us. Therefore, while visualizing the wrathful deity, it is essential that you hold in mind the meaning of emptiness. The meaning of emptiness. What is emptiness? Emptiness is a state of mind, and the state of mind itself is empty. That all things are just fabrications of the mind as human beings. The essence of the Great Seal. Now, let me write that again now. At this time, therefore, while visualizing the wrathful deity, it is essential that you hold in mind the meaning of emptiness, the essence of the Great Seal. The essence of the Great Seal, the mind of enlightenment. because it's through the emptiness that we're able to transcend from attachment to that to the Great Seal, to the Mahamudra, to the liberation of that. If you're not able to practice in this way, you must cultivate your experience of the illusion-like natural expressive power of actual reality. Every sentence here is just packed with stuff. I'll read it again. If you are not able to practice in this way, you must cultivate your experience of the illusion-like natural expressive power of actual reality. So as an ordinary human being in the bardo of living, now we're reverting back to that. What lessons did I learn? What do I know about, or what have I become the embodiment of illusion-like appearances, the expressive power of the illusions? If you are unable even to practice in that way, you should meditate on the meditational deity, Mahakarunika, without allowing your mind to experience attachment in any respect whatsoever, to not even be attached to Mahakarunika. To allow Mahakarunika to be that purity that pulls us from any kind of thought, any kind of emotion, any kind of attachment or aversion, any kind of wisdom, any kind of knowledge. All that we attach to, or we have aversion to. We have attachment to wisdom. Through practicing this effectively, Buddhahood will be attained in the Buddha body of perfect resource during the intermediate state. So what this is reflecting back on is when we were in that bardo of reality, in the perfect resource of the Sambhogagaya, of that mental being able to do that and so on. At this point, we're carrying this through in our next life. Can we rescue ourselves at this point? We're choosing a womb entrance. So we've already failed to block the womb entrance. Now we're a zygote. So let's read on. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Kunchuk Pema Dorje, if due to the potency of your past actions, you must at this stage enter a womb. A further teaching on the methods of choosing a womb entrance is now to be taught. So it says, if due to the potency of your past actions, you must at this stage, because your past actions now, you haven't been able to rescue yourself now. A further teaching on the methods of choosing a womb entrance is now to be taught. Therefore, listen carefully. Do not just move towards whatever womb entrance appears to you. If whilst being pursued by the avenging forces of the laws of cause and effect, you are powerless and unable to resist the process of entering a womb, then you must at this time meditate on Hayagriva, one of the gatekeepers. Since you now possess a subtle supernormal cognitive ability, you will clearly apprehend all the potential birthplaces as they arise in sequence. Therefore, make your choice based on the examination of the indications and based on this instruction. So we begin to see the progression of this. And this bears, individual contemplation. The language here is very clear. There's not much I can say about this to help you. You know, what it needs now is we each individually need to be able to sift through this ourselves and allow ourselves the reading of the outer meaning, the reading of the inner meaning, and the reading of the secret meaning. We need to develop this. And it just doesn't happen in one session. It happens over and over and over again. So now, in the middle of that paragraph, it says, since you now possess a subtle, supernormal cognitive ability, you will clearly apprehend all the potential birthplaces as they arise in sequence. Therefore, make your choice based on the examination of the indications and based on the instructions. So things that we've already been told. There are two kinds of oral instructions which now can be applied. First, the oral instructions for transferring the consciousness to the pure Buddha fields. And second, the instructions for choosing a womb entrance within impure cyclic existence. Therefore, listen carefully and do as follows. One more opportunity. First, the one choice, number one choice, the transference of consciousness to the utterly pure realms of the skyfarers is affected by those of highest ability by directing their intentions as follows. So now we have to be specific here. I need to explain this. The transference of consciousness. This is the POA. When we talk about the POA, is the transference of consciousness. So we do it when we, are on our deathbed. We're taught how to do that, which is an immediate way of being able to do this. It is for those who do not have the benefit of the Bardo Thodol, who do not have the benefit of a meditative practice like we are being presented here with, and so on. But nevertheless, it does teach us, it does show us the relevance of the transference of consciousness. So here it's coming to bear again now. And it says, in the utterly pure realms of the skyfarers. Who are the skyfarers? The skyfarers are the Dakinis, the Dakini class of beings, of enlightened beings. And we're going to talk more about them in the daily main practice when we get to that. We haven't talked too much about it in this practice, because you'll see later on. And so they have their own level of realm of skyfarers called Kachari. So it's like a for lack of a better word, it's like a heaven realm. And they are enlightened beings, but they're not fully enlightened, but they have great power, and they can move about in an instant anywhere one can imagine, and so on. They're not bound by any kind of limitations. So the realms of the skyfarers. Actually, when we talked about the Vidyadhara, we did talk about them. The hero awareness holders. We did talk about them, and how instantly they can engage and can liberate. So, and we will talk more about them in the daily practice. So now we recite this prayer. Alas, I am deeply sad that even after an infinite, incalculable eon, I am still left behind in this swamp of cyclic existence. How dreadful it is that while so many have attained Buddhahood in the past, I have still not achieved liberation. Now this cycle of existence disgusts me. It horrifies me. I have long been led astray by it. Now the moment approaches for me to move forward. Now I must take birth miraculously in the bud of a lotus flower. Remember miraculous birth, one of the 4 types of birth? In the presence of the Buddha Amitabha, in the Western Buddha field of the blissful Sukhavati. So this is the visualization of the POA practice. I'll repeat this again because it says repeat 3 times. Alas, I am deeply sad that even after an infinite incalculable eon, I am still left behind in this swamp of cyclic existence. How dreadful it is that while so many have attained Buddhahood in the past, I have still not achieved liberation. Now this cycle of existence disgusts me. It horrifies me. I have long been led astray by it. Now the moment approaches for me to move forward. Now I must take birth miraculously in the bud of a lotus flower, in the presence of the Buddha Amitabha, in the Western Buddha field of the blissful Sukhavati. We must practice being born on the pistil of a lotus flower. Om Mani Padme Hum. Shri. We are on the lotus flower. Behold the jewel in the lotus. Being born again as a jewel. I'll recite it again. Alas, I am deeply sad that even after an infinite, incalculable eon, I am still left behind in this swamp of cyclic existence, this incomparable, incalculable eon. How many lifetimes have we had? We don't know. It's incalculable. And this passage of time, an eon, how big is an eon? I don't know. But here we are again. How dreadful it is. While there so many have attained Buddhahood, so many others have attained Buddhahood, but I've left myself behind. I still not have achieved in liberation. Now the cycle of existence disgusts me. I'm finally gotten so fed up with this. I'm so tired of this. I want a way out. I'm making a conscious decision to work my way out of this. This is something you don't learn in the university. This is something you don't learn in high school. This is something you learn in spiritual places.
Amen, brother.
Now the cycle of existence disgusts me. It horrifies me. I have long been led astray by it. Now the moment approaches for me to move forward. I have to move forward. I am making the decision to move forward. Now I must take birth miraculously in the bud of a lotus flower, in the presence of the Buddha Amitabha, in the Western Buddha field of the blissful Sukhavati. And we recite this prayer most every time we conclude our sessions with the Bardo Thodol. We recite this prayer to be reborn in the blissful state of Sukhavati, the pure land of Buddha Amitabha. So now focus your attention concentratedly on this thought. It is essential that you make this effort. So alternatively, you can focus your attention on whichever Buddha field you wish. So in other words, it doesn't have to be Buddha Amitabha. It could be on manifest joy, Abharati, who is Amagog City. It could be on Densare, Yanavueha, on Alakavate, on Mount Patala, where you may wish to focus on coming into the presence of Padmasambhava of Udayana in the celestial palace of Lotus Light, or indeed whichever Buddha field you wish to enter. Be single-minded. Do not be distracted. Immediately upon establishing this intention, you will take birth in the chosen Buddha field. So if I said to you, okay, we're going to meditate now, and I want you to meditate on one-pointed mindfulness. How long would it take you to have a thought come into your mind? 5 seconds? Maybe 10 seconds? Maybe 3 seconds? And what thought is coming into your mind? What foolishness is coming into your mind? What fear is coming into your mind? What emotion is coming into your mind? That thought that is coming, that is keeping you away from your Buddha nature. We develop this in this lifetime, in this bardo, so that when we get to the other bardos, we now have the stability, we have the ability, we have the skillful means to be able to maintain that one-pointed mindfulness for extended periods of time. In the past weeks, we've been using, on Saturday nights, we've been showing the films, the noble films. We have Noble Film Night on Saturday nights, and we've been seeing masters, great lamas, great gurus, and so on, who we see in this meditative state. And it's hard to imagine that we can do that ourselves, but that's what we are trying to do, and we're seeing them do it. We're seeing that it's possible. This is the gift of the Nirmanakaya, of the emanation Buddha, who is showing us the way, who is showing us that it is possible as a human being, not as some pie in the sky, some ethereal thoughts and so on like that, but as an actual human being who is going through the process themselves to give us confidence that we can do it ourselves. So in this lifetime, we're not likely to be, successful in the total realization, the perfect realization of that, but we can begin the journey and see that we have many lifetimes and be able to rejoice in that and have happiness about that, be grateful for that. So if you don't mind, we've only got a few pages left. I'd like to finish, so we may go past 9 o'clock. So if somebody feels that they have to leave, you can watch it on a video later on, but I'm going to carry on. Okay, so now I'm on page 202 in the middle. It says, yet again, alternatively, if you wish to proceed into the presence of Maitreya in the realm of the joyful Tushita, think as follows. Alas, at this juncture in the intermediate state, the moment has come for me to proceed into the presence of the king of the sacred teachings, Maitreya, in the realm of the joyful. Therefore, it is there that I will go. Maitreya is the future Buddha. There's two names of Maitreya. One is one of the great bodhisattvas, 8 great bodhisattvas. So we've kind of discussed that before. This is the future Buddha. We haven't talked about Maitreya before. Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, had a disciple who he said that this disciple will be reborn as the next Buddha. He prophesies that there will be a future Buddha who will come when the Dharma teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha are no longer available. That this new Buddha, Maitreya, will take birth, will become in the realm in the realm of human beings. So, and this is the realm of the joyful. This is the realm of Tushita. So Tushita, this is where he abides. This is where Maitreya abides now. And this is in the realm of, we were talking about the realm of the 33 gods. And this is in the highest of those realms. And this is where Maitreya then goes beyond the realm of the 33 to become a Buddha and manifest to be able to come for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So here it says again now, alternatively, may you wish to proceed in the presence of Maitreya in the realm of the joyful, Tushita, think as follows. Alas, as this juncture in the intermediate state, the moment has come for me to proceed into the presence of the king of the sacred teachings, the king of the sacred teachings, Maitreya in the realm of the joyful. Therefore is there that I will go. This is my vision. I will tell you this. Use it for whatever you think it's worth. But I have a vision that when we pass, that I know I'm not pure enough to become Buddha. But I know that I am pure enough, and that many of my brothers and sisters, and I shouldn't even use the pronoun my, but the many brothers and sisters, that the light that we have, our life force, will all coalesce together. We will no longer be individual Lance or Debbie or Tom or all our names. We will just be this light. We will all coalesce together as Maitreya, the future Buddha. Why? Because we have that aspiration. And that we need the support. We realize who we are, what we have, and we are grateful that we have what we do have, and we will use every bit of power that we have to be able to, for this coalescence, for this to be able to be manifest. You know, back in the 60s and the 70s, you know, there was great music. There was a time, it was a time of enlightenment. I don't know what degree you might have been aware of that or something like that. But there was this one particular musical group. Much of this was being carried out in music. You know, it was like a living Bible to us, you know. And there was one particular group, and they were called the Grateful Dead. Because they realized that they weren't coming back in a way that they came in this life. And so from a perspective, they were dead to this life of strife and suffering and so on. And they were grateful for that. And it was in their music. And there were so many other great writers at that time, people who wrote novels and people who wrote, you know, scripture and so on. There were so many things happening. And it was during the time of Vietnam. There was great strife that was going on in the world. It was during the time of colonialism was on its last legs around the world. And here in America, not only were we, you know, torn apart by Vietnam, but we were being torn apart by civil rights. And great strides were being made in the direction of civil rights and so on. So I'm making the point that there is something that was happening very high, but there were also things that were happening that were very low. And this is called the white hole in time. That every 100 years, 90 to 110 years, there is a white hole in time where there is this shift in consciousness. Our generation had to work for that. But our children were born into this white hole in time, and they have it instinctively. Just like our parents, they had to work through the Great Depression and go through 2 world wars and so on like that. We were born at a time that was just after that. At least most of us. Some of us were born, you know, in the last years of the war and so on. But my point is that there were things that that we knew that our parents didn't know, or at least they had to work for to be able to bestow upon us, but we were born with it. So there's this white hole in time that happens every 90 to 110 years. And if you go back in history and you look at this, there's a book called The White Hole in Time. The author is Peter Russell, and it's a mind changer. So this Maitreya represents this shift in consciousness, and that we coalesce as being that Buddha. How do great beings get to be great beings? How does that life force come? You know, we all have a circle of influence, right? And maybe our circle of influence is 20 people, or maybe it's 50 people, or maybe 100 people, or something like that. What about those who have millions of people that they influence? How about those that have millions of people that they influence for 2,000 years? What kind of life force do they have? And how do they get that life force? How does that life force come together? It comes together from our life force, the aspiration, all coming together. We have this like aspiration, and that we practice for this, that we develop this, that we cultivate this. So then we go to the next page, page 203. If you focus your intention on this thought, you will take birth miraculously in the heart of a lotus in the presence of Maitreya. So here is that miraculous birth again. So every time we meditate, as an ordinary human being as we are, and we're sitting on that lotus, and we're sitting on that cushion, that we begin to visualize that as a lotus flower, and that whatever we were when we started that meditation has died. And now that we're being reborn as something greater, something more virtuous, something more pure, more liberated, more purified than that which started. So we're imagining, we're using that visualization that we're being born on the pistil of a lotus over and over and over again, such that we get to the point that we get up off the cushion and we take it with us. We take the lotus with us. We are the lotus. We are the jewel. We are the light. And if something happens in a moment that takes our life, we won't even notice it. Because we're already in that pure Buddha nature. So now, alternatively, is choice 2. If you are unable to accomplish this transference, or if you desire to enter a womb, or you are obliged to enter one, then here are the following instructions on choosing a womb entrance within impure cyclic existence. Therefore, listen carefully. Utilizing the supernormal cognitive ability which you now possess, examine the continents once again, as just described, and make your choice. You must enter a land where the sacred teachings flourish. Be warned, however, it could be that in reality, you are about to take birth by entering into a substance which is fetid and polluted. And yet that filthy mass will be perceived by you as sweet smelling. And you will be drawn towards it and take birth within it. Therefore, whatever attractive appearances may arise, do not grasp at them as substantially real. Ensure that you remain utterly free from the symptoms of attachment and aversion. And on that basis, choose an excellent womb entrance. It is extremely important that your motivation is firmly concentrated as you approach the womb entrance. So just to go back and paraphrase this, that we may, our judgment may not be correct. We may see something that appeals to us, that has warmth, it has moisture. But in reality, it's fetid, it's diseased, it's full of, it's terrible. But we need to be able to pull together our resources to be able to recognize this. And we need to be able to guide ourselves to a proper womb. We have to have our aspiration finely tuned. Om Mani Padme Hum. We have to tune our AM radio to that station of liberation over and over and over again. So there's no doubt. There's no confusion. We've done it so many times. We are now the embodiment of that vibration. So now we recite this prayer. Ah, for the sake of all sentient beings, I shall be born as a universal monarch, or acting purely like a great dignified sal tree. I shall be born into the Brahmin class, or as a child of an accomplished master, or into a family which maintains an immaculate lineage of the sacred teachings, or into a family where the mother and father are deeply devout. Then, once I have taken on a body which is blessed with the merit of being able to act on their behalf, I must concentrate my motivation on this thought and thus enter the womb. So here we're making our choices. Being born as a universal monarch or a tree. We could be born as a tree. We could be lost into a tree. We'll talk about that when we get to the main practice. We can be born to a father and mother who are deeply devout, because our aspiration has brought us together with this mother and father, because we are all vibrating at that same frequency of liberation. And that we do this for the benefit of all beings. And page 205. As you enter the womb, consecrate it by perceiving it as a celestial palace of the deities. Be full of devotion. Ensure that you enter whilst praying to and imagining that you are receiving empowerments from the conquerors of the 10 directions and from their sons, as well as from the meditational deities, and in particular from Mahakarunika. This is why when we do our dedication practices, our dedication prayers, that we should do them with great devotion, with great understanding, with great clarity and unimpededness, that this shall come to pass, that this be our greatest aspiration for the benefit of the enlightenment of other beings. However, be warned, for as you make this choice of a womb entrance, there is a risk of error. There is the risk of error when, through the potency of past actions, an excellent womb entrance is perceived as a bad one. And when a bad womb entrance is perceived as a good one. At this time, the essential points of the teaching are crucial. Therefore, once again, you should act as follows. Even though perceptions of an excellent womb entrance may occur, do not become attached to these. And conversely, even though perceptions of a poor womb entrance may occur, do not feel aversion. The essential point of the profound and genuine instructions is that you enter the womb in a state of great equanimity. utterly freed from the dichotomies of good and bad, acceptance and rejection, or attachment and aversion. Imagine those beings who are in war zones. Imagine those beings who are in famine lands. Imagine those beings who are in diseased lands. Imagine those beings suffering. But also imagine that there is a being, or there is a number of beings who, despite the suffering of being in the war zone, despite being in the suffering of being in famine, despite being in the suffering of utter disease, they still have great spirit. They still have great joy. And they are leaders showing courage to those suffering beings who they are with. Imagine that. And imagine that at this point, we may not have any control over how we are being born. And to be able to engage, we may need to be in that kind of life, to be able to purify those things that are still our unripened karma. We may need to be born among the hungry ghosts. We may need to be born among the animals, or even in the hell realms, or in the God realms, the Deva realms, and the jealous God realms, and the human realms. So we have to have courage with that. We have to have understanding with that. It says, the last sentence on page 205, the essential point of the profound and genuine instructions is that you enter the womb in a state of great equanimity, utterly free from the dichotomies of good and bad, acceptance and rejection, or attachment and aversion. You know, some of the great avatars, some of the great spiritual beings, you know, Buddha, you know, he was Siddhartha Gautama. He was born a prince, couldn't have a better life. And he gave it all up. But he never suffered in a way that would speak, you know, of this kind of disease and so on like that. But yet there were other beings, there were other great, Lord Jigten Sumgun, the founder of this lineage, contracted leprosy during the time that he was in the caves meditating. And it became part of his purification, and he overcame the leprosy. And it doesn't have to be even in a Buddhist tradition. Look at a great being like Jesus, being born, you know, to paupers, being born, you know, in a shed with animals and so on, and never having anything substantial in his life. But there was great joy in all these lives and so on. And I'm sure there's so many different stories that you all can tell me, and many that, you know, we could all read about and so on. So we can see that the life that we are to have is a life that is going to have the conditions and the opportunities, the causes for us to ripen our karma, to ripen it so that we're not pulled back by it anymore. We are liberated from that karma. We ripen that karma. So now, page 206. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Kunchuk Bema Dorje, if you do not know how to choose a womb entrance, and you are unable to give up your attachment and your aversion, Then regardless of which of these above appearances arise, you must call out by name to the three precious jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Take refuge in them. Pray to Mahakarunika. Go forward with your head held high. Recognize that this is the intermediate state. Give up your attachments and your clingings to the friends, sons, daughters, and relatives that you have left behind. These attachments are not helpful to you now. Enter into the blue light of the human realm. Enter into the white light of the realm of the gods. Enter into the mansions of precious jewels and the gardens of delight. How strong is our faith? How strong is our devotion? How strong is our sense that there is a system by which we can embody? So thank you for staying with me on this for past, I don't know, what's it been, 6 months, 7 months or something? Thank you for staying with me tonight on this. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Well,
It's supposed
huge
to be-
gratitude, Lance. Just thank you so much for guiding us through all of this. Oh, and it's just amazing. The last line of all of this is yet another opportunity for liberation. It just never ends right up to the last line. So what a joy this has been.
Thank you.
I
Yeah,
can't wait to do the daily prayers.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Lance, for everything.
You're welcome. You're welcome
Thank you for
very
the
much.
time.
Yes. Who is that? Is that Aiden or is that's Bella? Is it Aiden or Bella?
Thank you, Lance. Thank
This is
you,
Aiden.
Lance.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Louisa. Thank you. And I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. It really is, this is something personally I've wanted to do for a very long time, is share this. And so this is a wonderful thing. I've taught this a few times to individuals, but as a group, this is a magnificent thing, I think.
So a question for you.
Yes.
You've mentioned a continuation of this study. So how is that going to work out?
Well, we'll continue. We can start next week, or if you want to have a discussion group next week, we can do that. But we'll get into the main practice. It's called the daily main practice. It begins on page 17 here in the Bardo Thodol book and continues through, I think, page 66.
So we'll carry on next week.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Should we go right to the daily practice, or would you like to have a discussion group next week? Anybody have an opinion on that?
How about half and half?
Actually, I'm kind of in agreement. I think it'd be good for us to mull over questions and see what we come up with. We can't squeeze them in right now, and I'm not sure we need a whole period, but I bet you somebody's going to come up with some questions, or a few people are going to have some questions.
All right, well, let's start it off with questions, and we'll see how it goes. Very easily it can be the whole session, and then, so I hope you're reading this. I hope you're studying this. That's what this is for, and I can't imagine that everyone doesn't have at least one question. I'm not looking for comments. More the questions. Okay, so for tonight, let's Debbie, if you will put up the prayer to Sukhavati. So this prayer maybe takes on a little bit more meaning for everybody, If you're not familiar with this prayer, it's a gorgeous prayer. And we can do sometime the recite it with the Tibetan melody in the Tibetan language. It's a beautiful prayer. And just hearing the melody kind of transports you into Dewa Chen. Dewa Chen is the Tibetan name for Sukhavati. And Sukhavati is the pure land of the Buddha Amitabha. So please, Debbie, carry on.
Emaho. In the center is the marvelous Buddha Amitabha of boundless light. On the right side is Avalokiteshvara, the Lord of great compassion. On the left is Vajrapani, the Lord of powerful means. All are surrounded by limitless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the blissful pure land of Dewa Chen. When I and all beings pass from samsara, may we be born in Dewa Chen without taking samsaric rebirth. May I have the blessing of meeting Amitabha face to face. By the power and blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, may I attain this aspiration without hindrance. Tayata pensadriya awa bodhanaya soha. Tayata pensadriya awa bodhanaya soha. Tayata pensadriya awa bodhanaya soha. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. By this virtue, may I achieve all knowingness, by defeating all enemies' confusion. May all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of suffering. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings.
Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Shri.
Lance, we can't hear you.
Thank you. Composed by the preceptor, this Bardo Thodol was composed by the preceptor from Odayana, Padmakara. May this profound sacred teaching not be extinguished until all the worlds of cyclic existence have been emptied. This is a treasure text of Tulku Karma Lingpa. By the virtue of this Dharma work, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and attain enlightenment. May all beings and activities be auspicious for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Mangalam Dri Zala Zambu Pipa Alankar Bhavantu Sarva Mangalam. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all beings. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
All right. See you all next week.
Now, on
Thank you.
that note,
you.
Jerry.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Good night,
ladies.
everyone.